Okay, this video is to give an overview of the XM8 Lasers King 3-foot by 4-foot laser system. This particular unit is 130 watts. It's a 4-foot by 3-foot table, and I'm going to give you an overview of what each one of these components are. Okay, here's the machine itself, obviously. Down here on the floor is the exhaust blower, and towards the back, if I can see that, I can't find it, is the compressor. I'll have to show that on another machine. Hold on one second. I'll get behind this one over here. This is our Rook. But back behind the machine is the little mini compressor that prevents any fire from occurring by blowing out any flames. Here is the water chiller. It's just a little bit easier to get behind this particular machine. This is directly connected with those two hoses into the back of the laser, and that's what pumps the water through the laser tube to keep the tube cool. On the back of this one, that water chiller is sending water through the unit, and this water keeps that tube cool at a consistent basis so that it doesn't overheat, and allows the tube to last average of about 3 to 4 years per laser tube. Okay, on the back of each machine is also 4 ports. Those 4 ports are meant to power the water chiller, the exhaust blower, and the mini compressor, with a 4th one available in the event that's needed for anything else. In some cases, we've had customers put 2 exhaust blowers on the machine for stuff, materials that create quite a bit of smoke. So that's why we have 4 of them on there. On the back of each machine is the exhaust port, and that just connects a hose directly to that exhaust blower to send the fumes and smoke and whatnot outdoors. And then on the other side, here is a cable that connects to the water chiller. It's an alarm cable, so that if the water flow isn't moving through the system, the alarm will signify on the chiller that there's a problem with the water flow, and the laser machine will not fire if that cable's not connected. There's a hose to the compressor, which just connects to the compressor, goes into the laser system, and later on I'll show you how it comes out of the nozzle right above the material being worked on. And there's the ground of the machine. Even though the power cable has a ground to it, we like grounding the actual machine to make sure there's no issues with it. Okay, let's fire up this bad boy and show you how it operates. First thing, I typically will leave that emergency button activated. That kills the power to the entire machine. When that's turned back on, what happens is there's electrical current through those 4 ports, which fires up your exhaust blower, that compressor, and that water chiller automatically. So once those are plugged into the laser system, it automatically turns on those accessories, so you don't have to think about it and remember it. Okay? Now down here, I'm going to turn on the machine. This is the power to the system itself. When that turns on, the electronics get activated with electrical current so that they can function. Okay? Let's go ahead and open up this lid so you can see the inside cabinet. You can see it's a very big area. And I'm going to hit a button here that's called datum. What that datum button does, this sends the machine to the farthest point on the table. Once it's done that, then the machine knows where it's located. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the escape button here. Okay, that allows me to move the heads with these 4 arrows. So now I can move the head down to the center of the table or wherever you want that to be, and we can set home by pressing that enter key 3 times. That becomes our new home. Now, there are other buttons on here. Laser power gives electrical current to the laser machine. Auto manual, what that refers to is if you're using automatic, then the settings you apply in your software are what's being utilized. If you use manual, then the settings that you're assigning here on the control panel are being used. Most people will use auto because it's easier to set up on your software. Lighting is exactly what that refers to. Lights turn on, lights turn off. Our lights are mounted underneath the laser system, if you can see that. And the whole point of that is where your job is actually operating, your lights are right above your material. Other machines in the market put the lights on the very back or the very front, which is pretty useless, especially on a table this big where the lens assembly would be too far away from the front and back. Okay? So the other thing is, with this key switch, this master key right here, this is what unlocks the entire machine to allow it to operate. This key right here unprotects the lid. I have the lid open right now. Okay? There is a kill switch right here that if this key is not activated, the machine will not run unless that lid's holding that key down. Okay? What this allows you to do is run the machine with the lid open without having to mess around with that switch. We do that a lot because we have a lot of customers that require, fast production and to be able to get in everything as needed. What I'm going to do is put in a piece of wood and just stick it in the machine, okay? And you can see that right there. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to press a Z button. That switches the control panel, which is very difficult to see in this screen. The Z axis, which allows me to raise and lower the table, okay? So there we drop down the table or raise it up. The way the focus works is there's two red diodes, one on each side of the lens assembly. You can see one on the left and one on the right. And what that does is that puts two red dots on your material. When those two dots become one, you are focused on your material, okay? Once you've done that, hit the Z button again, and that releases your controller so you can see all your jobs. Okay, right now, there's also a button here called laser. So I can come over here and tell it to fire the button manually so I can see where it's firing, okay? The other button here is I have a file in here called laser. I'm going to move this over just a little bit. And what I'm going to do is just run this job run the machine with that particular file, but we'll go onto the computer and show you how that's created. Okay, so what I have here is a file that I created a while back, and I'm going to press this test button. What that test button does is it's going to follow the outside of the design I have in the system and tell me if I'm centered properly on my material. The beauty of a feature like this is that you don't throw any material away, because you can always test to make sure you have enough room in order to utilize that little scrap of material you have in there, so your material will go much further than it could have been in the past. Okay, so looks like that's going to fit on the corner of my material. What I'm going to do now is that's ready to go. I'm going to tell it to go ahead and run that job, and we'll see how it comes out. And